What's up, everyone?
Yo, yo, yo. What's up?
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah.
Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. Talking Tuesday.
Talking Tuesday.
Talking Tuesday.
Yeah.
Another NOS. Let's talk, huh?
Your phone's on.
So, hold on. We got technical.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
Phone's off.
So
Phone's
hopefully, everybody had a good weekend. I know I had a super long weekend.
Yeah.
We were
I had
just
a pretty
talking.
long weekend.
We were just talking about how many events here in San Diego there was. It was pretty insane this last weekend.
Man, I remember when
Yeah,
there
it
were
was really
6
busy.
clubs in this town.
Yep. What?
Yeah.
Well, there's kind of almost no clubs now. In there. you know?
25 years later.
Yeah, we're gonna go back to 6 clubs.
It's just going through a change. You know, I remember when I first started, like, small clubs were popping. Then it was like the sort of like
The mega club.
extravagance,
Bottle service.
Bottle-
the high-end lounge.
the high end lounge. Yeah,
And then the mega. You had both.
yeah.
You know, you had the on Broadway, which was 2,000, 2,500 people capacity.
Yeah.
Right.
5 rooms, 2 levels.
It's funny because you know when I first started, there was no bottle service,
Yeah.
and my buddy, and I think both of you guys know him, Jason Overall.
Yeah.
Remember
I used
Jason
to
Overall?
DJ
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah, so Jason Overall moved to Miami. I forget what years. And today's stream, basically, we're talking about history of
Yeah,
dance
we haven't
music.
given them a little, backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to introduce ourselves.
Yeah,
We will.
yeah.
But
But
probably don't know who we are, but we definitely, our topic is.
just on that topic, though,
Yeah.
I was saying about bottle services is Overall moved to Miami for quite a while. Miami had already started doing bottle service because overseas was doing bottle service, and you know Miami is such an international spot. And then he moved back, and he was one of the first people that started introducing bottle service.
Yeah. Matt Spencer too, and Tyler Sharman, and as well as the R&D guys when they were managing for the NDev group.
Yeah, the end of
Sidebar.
Yeah.
Was I remember being at all those places.
Yeah.
And I just had a conversation with Tyler Sharman at that pool party that we were all at. And
Yeah.
he was saying how the bottle serve. We were talking about that exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's funny. We're saying this because this is the topic of today's show. We're going to talk about
The history of
how our
DJing
career
for
started.
us. Yeah, in San Diego.
And weave in, interesting topics about all the venues that some of these, places have now turned into. Mm-hmm. And some of these places have existed for a long time. So I'm Freshcobar.
I'm Erick Diaz.
And I'm Lavelle Dupree.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk NOS number 4.
Let's go.
This time it's just us, no guest.
Yeah, people were asking us about talking about the history of San Diego, and some of my I wrote some notes down, but some of my years might be off because I don't remember exactly.
I agree with you.
So don't get mad at me, but it's around those times.
I have a good idea of the
I know
years.
when I started, but as it unfolded,
Yes.
what exact year it was.
I kind of have a good idea of when things opened in what years. I can probably help with that.
Okay.
I remember certain venues when they opened because it's kind of like I remember a lot of my residencies were like my timeline of my past.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
Why-
Same here.
I think we should have Lavelle kick things off because he started DJing in the 60s.
Yes, 66.
Just kidding.
1966.
So you talk to us
The
about
first DJ.
because I know we've talked amongst each other a little bit, but give us a refresher of how
I'll
you
give
started.
you. Yeah, I'll give you my journey. My journey in DJing in San Diego. I mean, technically started in '99, I believe, like because of my buddy Brian Dyer was throwing a New Year's party at a house party. So that was like, if I didn't say that, he'd be really upset because it was a New Year's party that I played. But then,
Wait, no. But back up though. So you already had records. You talk about
yeah. I mean,
Well, how
I've been
did-
playing music.
Okay, talk to us
DJing
about
since 1990.
there. That's
Yeah.
where we want to start.
Yeah, but that wasn't in San.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't in San Diego.
That wasn't in San Diego.
No, that was where because I'm from Seattle.
Okay.
Tacoma, Washington, to be exact, and that's where I started.
Gotcha.
So I had DJ'd like 8 years before I played in front of anyone.
And that was dance music or
All house music.
All house music.
Yeah, I mean, by the time what got me starting to DJing was house music.
What was your local store over there? Do
In-
you remember the name?
Where?
In Seattle.
In Seattle,
Was there a main record store?
I do not remember
The name, yeah.
the name of the record store that I used to get my records. I mean, mostly how it started was I started in 1990, and my friend, his name is Sonny. He was throwing raves. He threw his first rave at this place called the NAF building, and I went with him, and like it was the first music to me was dancing. You know, I used to break dance for Pepsi when I was like 14.
Okay, so break. That's
dancing, what got me into it.
Oh, gotcha.
So then I was going through this phase with hip hop where it was just like, okay, I wasn't really into the lyrics.
Yeah,
I could always listen to music. Every time I listen to music, I always listen to the lyrics. So I wasn't into the music.
Breakdancing was a lot of the beats and
it was the beats, but I'm always been someone that always hears the lyrics, no matter what you say. So it's like in the beginning of the hip hop, it was very, very like awesome. I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I even loved, I feel like I loved gangster rap, but I feel like that was the rap that kind of ruined hip hop for me. Not because gangster rap, because I like the guys that were the original gangster rappers.
Yeah.
But everybody else that wanted to be a gangster rapper that wasn't a gangster rapper because they thought gangster rap was the vehicle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Out of it as an artist, and they weren't artists. When artists are doing something, you can see the art. When people are mimicking artists that aren't artists, you can see that too. So like that kind of drove me away from it. Now we're in 1990, go to a rave.
Sonny takes you to the rave.
Takes to one of his raves. I go there, and I'm listening to music that sounds so open form. Like everybody is like dancing to this music. Like they've been hearing this for like forever.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And as in my journey, I found out this was not the case. You know what I mean? These guys just had such understanding of their taste in music that they didn't need to hear it 50 times to know that this was something they really enjoyed. And so that's what really attracted me to it. I couldn't outdance the music. That's what got me to it. But I never, speed it up for me coming to San Diego, I never like lost the interest. I just never was interested in doing it in front of anybody or professionally.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That didn't come around until like 99, 98.
Yeah.
And then that's when I did this house party. And then I had a buddy, because I was playing volleyball, that's why I moved to San Diego. His buddy, Matt Spencer. Yeah. He was throwing a party on a Monday night at Blind Melons.
Well, for everyone that doesn't know who Matt Spencer is, he currently is one of the owners of and the main owner of SDCM.
Yeah.
So Firehouse, Kettner Exchange, Spin de Syrah,
Waverly.
They have Captain's Quarters and the Grass Skirt.
Yep. Yeah.
So the list goes on, but this is before he owned
anything. Before he owned anything, and we all started our career in San Diego at the exact same time.
At that time, was Matt working at Ole Madrid? Do you remember? As a bartender?
This is before that.
Before that?
Yes, because this is what got him in Ole Madrid.
Gotcha.
Because we did this for a year, right? We were doing, and honestly, I wouldn't advise anybody to try to start their career on a Monday. But we did.
Times were different over then.
They were and they weren't, because times were different in the sense that, there wasn't a lot of competition. There wasn't a lot of people either.
Yeah.
So,
but it was
a lot of interest creates competition.
There was more of mystery to it, because you were like, the promoter was like, dude, Monday's going to be crazy. It's going to be popping. And you had to actually go to see it was popping.
Well, our I think Columbus Day and Martin Luther King Day were definitely our biggest days.
There was no social media.
In Labor Day.
There was no social media to
anytime
see
Monday, anytime they had Monday off, that place was super slammed.
Yeah. Okay. So you DJ'd there. That was
I went and gave I was convinced to start DJing, to put it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like I had a passion for it.
Yeah.
It was like, why are you wasting this passion just for yourself? And I was like, it's just therapy for me, and I just love doing it. It's not for anyone else. So I made a mixtape. Literally a mixtape.
Yeah.
Gave it to Matt. Matt liked it. He hired me to be the closer of the party for $25.
Oh, no way. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. $25.
I think
what I mean? So
Matt, can you
guys complaining about like the rates?
I got it.
99. No, but and then that's how I met Scooter at Blind Melons at Candy Bar, which was the creation of Scooter and Lavelle.
Yeah.
So we started that there, and I mean, a funny story. Like he comes, like I learned a big lesson, like at Candy Bar, because I learned this is not a job you can call in sick. It's not that kind of job. I mean, like you call in sick one time, you might lose your job, and that's exactly what happened, and how Scooter became a part, because the hip hop guy, because the night went hip hop, and then it went into me in the house. So the hip hop guy called in sick, and then this other friend of ours named Tiny, he brought Scooter. And true, honest to God story, like Tiny goes up to Matt and goes, "Hey, my buddy, I heard your hip hop guy's sick. My buddy plays hip hop." And Matt Spencer turns and looks at Scooter and goes, "Who, the fat white kid?" Tiny looks at him and goes, "Yeah." All right. So Scooter gets on, right? And I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay, this guy's pretty good."
Yeah.
2, 3 songs, fourth song, I'm like, man, this guy might have lost his job. Half hour in, I go, this guy definitely lost his job.
Yeah.
We'll never see this guy again. And then about an hour and a half into it, he's probably got like 10, 15 more minutes. I'm like, man, thank God this guy doesn't play house music.
Yeah.
This guy
was
guy
lucky
is
because
really good.
At that time, there wasn't a DJ just every 5 steps you walked.
I was gonna bring that up after this story.
Yeah. No, that's what's so crazy. I mean, he got lucky. But if you know Scooter, if there's any place Scooter would make his, first grand opening or like in his presence, would be with his records, because another guy didn't show up and Scooter had his records and crushed it. So
what, he was just carrying his crate in his car?
I don't know, man.
What was going on with that? That's weird.
I can't tell you why he had his music or how he found out the DJ wasn't there, but we needed a DJ to open the party, and Scooter was right there.
That's cool.
And
so you saw him killing it. You didn't know him, and then you talked to him. And you're like,
I heard Matt had the idea.
You're like,
I don't know if that's true. Matt, you guys should you should scratch over him or something.
No, Matt did not have the idea. So I love you, Matt, but Matt, like inspired it.
Yeah,
because he had a part in it. So Scooter brought in 4 turntables. Right, and then he wants to play on all 4 turntables by himself. So I'm like, cool. He gets done, I go on. I'm only playing on 2.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know, maybe like 15, 20 minutes before the party's going to be over, and then Matt grabs a scratch record and starts like messing around on it, right? And Scooter's like, "Yo, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. Here, let me show you how to do this." So then he started messing around on it, right? And I was like, man, this is really, really cool because I can hear all the performance. You know what I mean? Of the scratching, but like the thing I didn't like when like hip hop guys did it is when they would catch the crossfader into the beat. So sometimes they're scratching, but sometimes if they don't get it right, they're not putting the beat back on it. So it's, gets a little like off. Yeah. Right? He had no control of the beat.
Yeah.
So he couldn't while he was doing all his tricks, there was nothing he was, messing up. It was just all performance and scratching.
Yeah.
And it just sounded really dope. I was like, whoa, this sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, we should try to do this. Scooter was like, yeah, whatever, bro. Sure. Leave me alone. Let me get my 4 turntables and get out of here. I'm like, nah, man, this is actually, it was kind of cool. And he brought him back and we actually did it just off the whim. Right?
Oh, so that's how you guys didn't even practice. You were just
we didn't even practice.
Okay.
Like the first 2 times we did it, we didn't even practice.
Okay.
So
and you were the primary mixing of the music.
I just played just as we do it now.
He was doing it on top. Yeah.
I played all the sound, and he was throwing acapellas over the top.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That concept has never changed since we've been doing it.
Gotcha.
For for 20 years or so, 25, maybe almost 30. But so like we did it that first time, and I guess there was a buzz about it, unbeknownst to us. So we got a opportunity from who was it? Oli Madrid contacted Matt Smith and those guys, and so heard you guys are doing cool stuff. We want you to come and do our Saturday. Mm-hmm. So we're like, okay, we're done here. Mm-hmm. We're all gonna move to Oli Madrid. We should do something cool to end this. Sorry about that. Did I change anything? All right,
and if anybody doesn't know, Oli Madrid is where Voyeur used to be before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went. So what happened? So we're all going to Oli Madrid, and we're like, we got to do something cool to send this off.
Yeah.
And then Tyler and Matt were like, yeah, let's do that 2x4 thing you guys did. Mm-hmm. And then we're like, oh, okay, cool, let's do that. So then we did it again without practicing. Just went up there and just, did our thing.
Yeah.
And a rep from SRH heard we were going to do it, came out in sauce, and then was like, yo, you guys are dope. We want you guys to come play at Montage for our Friday night. And like that was like the biggest, dopest party in town at the time. And we were like, yeah, okay, cool. And so like then we started practicing.
Yep. We have some of the same paths crossing with you and I with Matt Spencer, Oli Madrid, Friday nights at Montage.
Man.
If anybody doesn't know, Montage is Spin.
Yep.
Now, at the time, it was a night called Studio 54.
Yeah.
With SRH and Pauly P.
Yeah.
So, I think you were missing. Weren't you at Baja Brewing Company? Weren't you playing there?
I did play at Baja Brewing Company.
You did play there, right? Yeah.
Yep. I did play there, but that was after this because Liz was like, we got picked up by SRH in like 99 at the end of 99, 2000 because we only did it for a year.
People don't know what SRH is. So.
Yeah, it was like a clothing company,
and
production.
They did kind of some bookings.
Cottonmouth Kings. He kind of started doing it. Ryan White was our first manager, and he started doing it. And he
agent.
Yeah. Agent, manager. I don't know. It was not too much difference back then. No, it was a guy who represented you and got you bookings. So like he represented us first, which was amazing. He was a really great manager, great guy.
Okay.
Only thing that happened with us is that like he got Beige and Adam Webb, and they just weren't as easy to work with as me and Scooter were.
Yeah.
So just like he's like, man, this is not good. I can't do this off of just one good act. I need acts. So.
I ran into Beige.
Oh yeah, he's out in Vegas.
In Vegas.
Yeah.
He booked me out there.
Yeah, he's in Vegas.
So
he's doing the Hard Rock. Not the Hard Rock.
Yeah,
Virgin.
He booked me out there, yeah.
Yeah, somebody
Yeah.
else booked me out there to be a resident one season at the Virgin.
Yeah.
And when I get there, he was the artist liaison. I was like, I hadn't seen him in years.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you Beach?
I actually didn't know him back then. I didn't meet him until he booked me at Body English and Vanity and all that. Actually, I think Vanity was someone else, but yeah, he booked me at that Virgin. And then I went to play San Francisco. I'll stay on with you that night.
Yeah, I've known Beach since Rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with him. Me and Scooter have worked with those guys.
Yeah.
Like from the beginning. So I knew him when he was a resident at Rubber, like with his all black hair, black fingernails.
Yeah,
like,
Rubber. So for people who don't know, Rubber was sort of like this punk rock kind of weird, crazy, insane, like.
Yeah, like prop. Like a lot of props on stages, and then it was all theme based.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was kind of the first like.
Do you know the one of the owners, the old owners, which was Damian?
Yeah, I know Damian Sanders and John Huntington.
So when I think when I first started, it's this weird connection. I just got to throw this in there, but when I first started the snowboarding in like the 80s, Damian Sanders was the biggest professional snowboarder on the planet.
Yeah.
Like insane.
Yeah, he's super dope. Really good snowboarder.
Yeah. But then, finish that. He does his Club Rubber, finishes Club Rubber, and now he's a huge prop guy that owns this it's called, I think it's like Monster Props or something. So a lot of the big festivals and parties, all the stuff that's like prefabricated and made, like it's his company making all that stuff.
Oh, I could believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, they were
Monster
doing that
Stage,
stuff,
I think.
You know what I mean? They were doing that stuff.
They were already doing it on their own.
Yeah, on the early 2000s. You know what I mean?
Like he's worked with everybody from Insomniac to Vegas. And, yeah. So like that's what Damian Sanders does, but he was kind of like a big innovator in the sort of like theme parties.
Yeah, definitely. They were definitely the innovators. When they were throwing the Pimp and Ho was like one of the biggest parties. Around in Vegas. I mean, at least like 80, 1,000 people would show up to that party.
Vegas was a weird time too when they started finally opening up nightclubs.
Yeah. I mean, we played at one of the first.
Yeah. Which
we played at Babies. That's what I'm saying. So we were in 2000. SRH got us our first gig at Babies, and then we solidified a residency once a month, twice, Friday and Saturday. And that was like our first, that was the beginning of us playing in Vegas for the rest of our lives.
And that was that was really the beginning of Vegas like nightlife.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
for
was
sure.
crazy
Yeah,
back
babies. I
then.
remember going to see you with you guys.
Yeah.
In like 2003, maybe. Me and Vic
Yeah.
and Blessed.
So
Yeah.
how did you guys
Well,
cross paths?
yeah, it's a interesting story, but it's related to the Matt Spencer world.
Oh, okay.
You want me to tell how I got started?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I actually started DJing in the year 2000. I wanted, I was a skateboarder, so I kind of was into the underground hip hop stuff.
Were you any good at skateboarding?
Yeah, I got hurt though in 10th grade. I was really good actually. I probably would have got sponsored if I didn't get hurt. And then I got hurt again 2 weeks later after I let it heal for only 2 weeks. So that put me out. I ended up getting a job and saved up money. And that's when I also met in high school in 12th grade, Chris Cutts. Mutual friend, one of my best friends at the time, saw him in his class because he came to our school like midway through the year and he had a Dilated Peoples t-shirt on, which was an underground hip hop group.
Right.
So Micah went up to him and brought him to our skate crew. And we both found out we wanted to DJ.
He's like, yo, what's up with that shirt?
Yeah, exactly.
Come over here.
Who are you? Come hang out with us.
You look, you're one of us.
You're one of us. Come over here.
Yeah.
For sure.
That was exactly how that happened.
That's cool.
So, lo and behold, Cutts tried to skate with us, but he wasn't a skater. And he got turntables first, and then I got turntables. He also worked at this store called Party Crew at the mall in El Cajon, and his boss let him set up turntables in there. So all he would do was scratch there all day.
That's awesome.
Like El Cajon, like deep El Cajon.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
whoa. Okay.
And so
What kind of store was it?
It was a clothing store.
Okay, clothing.
Party Crew. It was like, men's clothing.
Yeah.
I don't remember if they might have had some women's stuff.
Kind of like streetwear of the time or something like that?
Yeah, but more, not streetwear we would wear. We were more into the streetwear. It was more like probably stuff that you'd see people wearing at Club Rubber and in some of these places that you guys were DJing. Like,
All right.
a little more.
Right, like ravey.
Rave.
Yeah.
A little ravey.
Yeah.
Little, I don't know the right
Like
word.
mileage?
Kind of like
maybe?
mileage.
Yeah, maybe like a
mileage.
mileage.
Yeah.
Yeah, in PB.
Yeah, I used to
Very
work
much
there.
so. Yeah. So he would always be like, come to my store and scratch, and I met the owner of the store. So the owner told Cutts, hey, mind you, we kind of had the same mentality as you. Like, we didn't really think that we could get paid doing this stuff, right?
Right.
This is back in the days of vinyl. And we had all these underground hip hop records and scratch records. We were like scratch DJs. I looked up to guys like Demon and Mike Check, who later became friends of mine and were on the same roster. And but the times were different back then. So eventually his boss was like, hey, my friend is throwing some parties. You should talk to him. And that was Andy Farnsworth.
Oh, really?
So Andy Farnsworth was doing this Thursday night in La Jolla at Moondoggies. This is the beginning of our whole thing. Actually, the first gig we got paid for, me
Wait, where was Moondoggies at again?
in La Jolla. Well, there was one in PB
It
and
was one of La Jolla.
one in La Jolla. Back
Where
then.
in La Jolla?
It was
Right on
before
the main-
Prospect existed, but it was right on the main drag,
Okay.
upstairs, across from Il Forno.
Oh, yeah.
Il Forno might have been downstairs. I don't remember.
Gotcha.
Our first gig, I'll kind of say this: we made $25 too. Not there, but we actually played with. His name was Willow, and a friend of ours, and now he was the Gas Lamp Killer. Everybody knows probably who he is.
Yeah.
We used to go dig for records together and do things. And I remember going to a show that he played in PB. We were all underage. We were all like 18
Yeah.
at this time, 19.
Yeah.
And so we played at this in the La Jolla at this hookah lounge for $25. That was our first gig. We were like, wow, you can get paid for this?
You like
And-
split $25? Split
No,
20 bucks?
each,
Oh,
each.
okay.
Like all three of us, $25 each.
Okay.
But we didn't. We was just like some little lounge. We were playing like trip hop and underground, hip hop and shit like that. And but yeah, so Cutts started kind of getting into Moondoggies, and I went with him. But mind you, like I said, we were underage. We met Ali. Ali was the bartender.
Ollie
from Nova.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my guy right there.
Yeah, that's how long we've all known each
Jeez.
other.
Yeah.
So you know, we were literally kids, and we didn't have no club records. Like our biggest club records were probably like Biggie, so we had to start buying this.
And there was at that time. Let me ask, and I think like there wasn't open format yet. It was like you were hip hop.
You were either a hip hop DJ or a house DJ because you couldn't really afford all those records.
It didn't become open format until literally
digital.
Until like it went from house in the main room, right, to hip hop in the main room, and then it was going back to house, and then like literally like I mean, give them credits. Hip hop DJs like cockroaches. They're not gonna give up their spot. They will play. Like all the house DJs were like, they were like, we want to hear hip hop. They're like, dude, we're not hip hop DJs. We're not playing that. You know, forget that. House hip hop DJs were like, we want to hear. Cool, I got that too. You want some house? Yeah. Cool, I got that. Like that was like AM and not even AM because AM was just.
It was mostly. It was actually mostly started off with the New York DJs, the New York open
Mark
format
Ronson
DJs. A lot of those guys were playing all formats. And you know, you listen to like Crooked's Road podcast. He talks about that playing in New York and a lot of those clubs out there realize, well, we could just pay this one guy more money, but still spend less than having two DJs. And so that kind of birthed. I would say it was also kind of vinyl, but when the whole Serato movement came out, it really birthed the open format world because. So this is pre-Serato.
Yeah, there became stars in that sort of like realm because before it was like yes, there was DJs and they were residents and they were really good, but then like. When it became that open format, all of a sudden there was like stars of open format. Like,
there were still popular hip hop DJs, obviously.
Like AM.
AM
he was there.
Big,
he was huge, and he was
Kid
there
Capri,
before.
You had a lot of famous guys, Grandmaster Flash. There's legends already in that world, but. You got to remember, like you said earlier, this was a totally different time.
Yeah,
we're all carrying crates of records. Ugh. There was a lot less DJs.
Yeah,
I can count on my, because we got in young, and so a lot of the older guys were starting to get scared of their jobs. So I remember what happened was eventually I got into playing at Moondoggies too. They started doing the front room, having a DJ there. That's also where I met Aaron, who owned Avenue, and he worked there as well. I met guys like G-Roy and Theron, who were also, they were barbacks, I believe. And, they became Fortune DJs, and one of them, the boy became a manager at Stingery, which is years later. But, we started meeting all these people. Then Matty A came in to help promote. And then Matty A took cuts to Axiom. He took both of us. I missed a step. Our first gas lamp gig was at E Street Alley. What is it called
Bloom.
now? Bloom.
Bloom now.
Yeah, it was basement. It was below.
Yeah.
E Street Alley, then it was below, then it was basement. Now it's Bloom.
Yeah.
So our first gig in the gas lamp was at E Street Alley, where Bloom is. Mm-hmm. And by this time, I'm probably 19. Around the same time, we got asked to play by some friends that Cuts knew at Thrusters on a Wednesday for a birthday. Mm-hmm. And the owners over there, at the time Mo was managing it and Nick was the owner, who's still the owner. They're like, man, these kids are good. You guys want Wednesdays? And Matty A and Kingsley were doing Tuesday. So we started planting our roots and meeting people. Going downtown, Matty A took Cuts to Saturday nights at Axiom, which is now the Shout House.
Axiom, I don't remember at all.
And then Andy Farnsworth started promoting Fridays at Aubergine. Mm-hmm. And then he took me, or I think it was, but it's basically the same. I think Cuts was Fridays at Axiom, because then I got asked to do Aubergine. And I remember Matt Spencer coming up, and I met him, and he paid me. And,
$25?
No. I actually got $100, but I got less. I got booked for the DJ Here, which was Matt and Tyler's promotion company at the time, which became later one of the groups that became Five Group. They booked me for the DJ Here like 1 or 2 year anniversary, I believe, and I got paid $60. I didn't know what I was getting paid. I didn't have an agent. I didn't know about this game.
To go from 25 to 60.
No, I went from 25. Well, we were getting paid at the other spot. But
okay.
I went from 25 and then got paid 100 and then 60 from there. I went down.
You went down.
But I was 19 and I was just having fun.
Yeah.
You know, and at the same time, we were just planting our roots. So, you know, that's kind of how I got my start. What ended up happening was, you know, Cuts was kind of working with Matty A. I started working with Matt Spencer. After that gig, they liked me. I met Tyler. They started bringing me into the Saturdays at Aubergine, DJ here. They didn't own it yet.
Yeah.
They were just promoting.
Right.
And then eventually they moved and we went to on Broadway. I was opening up for this guy, Scott Martin. I was still underage.
Martin.
And then
I remember
they
that
left
guy.
that and we went to the Bristol. And this is where I met Scooter and Lavelle. Yeah. And apparently this is a funny story because the whole time Matt Spencer would be like, I actually started helping Matt with some stuff with the sound because I knew a lot about audio, you know, and I was also producing at the time. I started 1 year after DJing. I bought my MPC right there and I started making beats. And that was like my first thing I wanted to do. But he would always hype up this guy. You got to meet this guy, Scooter. And then he'd tell Scooter, you got to meet these two kids, Cuts and Fresh. Like, all right, because Cuts started getting brought into the Bristol too at this time. I think Axiom ended, and I told Matt, you got to get my friend in. Mm-hmm. He's good. And so and then we were both playing together in the front room, and they had the house in the back.
The Bristol was the hotel on across
9th floor.
Yeah.
First Avenue. They threw a party. We had to bring in the sound every week. They had it in the closet, so I would leave my work and go there and set it up.
Yep.
And then I would end up helping them break it down, and I would hang out with Matt in his hotel room afterward and just talk, and then I would drive home.
Is that hotel still there?
Yeah, it's still there.
It's still there.
Is it still called the Bristol?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Wow. Okay.
The party was called the Sky Room.
Yeah.
So they did that for quite some time, and Scooter told me that, you know, when we met, or the night we met, I remember standing at the elevator to go down, and the elevator opens, and there's Matt and Scooter, and he's like, "Oh, perfect time." Freddie, I was just talking about you. This is Scooter, this is Fresh. And me and Scooter look at each other up and down. What's up, dog? Give each other a high five and a handshake. And that Monday, I'm at his house scratching, and we became good friends. And then I met Lavelle and all the other people that came along with it. But Scooter will tell you, like, yo, these were the first kids that made me fear for my job. I had to step my game up.
Yeah. They were good, man. They were really good. They still are, but I was like, yeah, they're right up there.
And so back then, I wanted to say, when you were talking earlier, like, there wasn't a lot of DJs. I could count, you know, maybe 15 or 20 guys that were really running all the spots. And we were two that came in that kind of took some jobs from people, obviously. But everybody was really respectful back then. Guys like Joey Jimenez and Henry Diaz and Billy Knight and Tone Capone, Ja Leal was around. You know.
Because, I mean, back then I feel like it was a different reason. Like, the reason why people were DJing, right? And when you played in front of someone, I mean, most people didn't take as long as I did, 8 years, but still, people took their time. No one wanted to embarrass themselves in front of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now some people are just
practiced in your bedroom and got good.
Got really good. It was like a badge of honor to be like, come out and be on point. You know what I mean? Instead of like, you know what I mean? It was way worth just being like, yo, I'll get gigs later until I'm just like a black belt at this before taking my, you know, yellow belt ass out there and just watch me fumble through stuff. Because it's not just you knowing how to do it, but it's about you being confident to know that when shit ain't right, you still know you can do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not, it looks like your house and it works like your bedroom thing, you're good. But that ain't how it works out there.
No.
You know what I mean? A lot of equipment ain't working right.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, literally one of the first things Scooter taught me was like, yo, stop using that crossfader. You're not a mixer DJ.
Yeah.
Because the better you learn how to not use that is the better you're going to be able to do when that thing ain't working one day. Yeah. And I was like, that was a great point. It's like, if the channels don't work, no one's playing.
Yeah, needles,
if the
dirty records
don't work, and you know how to you mixing with both of them up. You know what I mean? One day, if that's not out, you're not going to be able to play. And he like taught me that. It's for stat about me, and it's like it's true. It's like it's being comfortable enough to handle things not being perfect.
I mean, back then, I remember having to play even on Broadway because we went back to on Broadway after the Bristol, and then we were all the headliners. And I remember I was just about to turn 21, and Matt called me. I'm in a meeting, and no disrespect to Scott Martin, but he was afraid of losing his job, and he kind of did. He called out and said in the meeting some of Matt's DJs are underage, and he called me.
His job,
when
bro.
you turn 21.
How old are you, bro?
When do you turn 21? But I mean, the same guy was giving me shots when I was opening up for him when we were there previously.
Yeah.
Matt called me. I need to know fast. I've got to run back to this meeting. I'm like, oh, I turned 21 next week. And he's like, calls me back. Okay, you can play this week, but you just can't drink. But you headlining now.
Yeah.
And so we started headlining the Karma Room, which is one of the bigger rooms.
And that's Park, by the way, if you guys don't know, on Broadway.
Yeah.
Karma Room. So upstairs was the sushi restaurant. We turned into the house music, EDM, dance music, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't EDM back then.
Yeah, it was house.
House. It was just house
or
trance. And then the hip hop, all the rooms down below were all, it was an 80s room. There were 2 hip hop rooms. Oh, we also did the vault. They brought in sound and they put sound in the vault, which I think
that was dope.
Was Vaughn? Do you remember if Vaughn was playing in the 80s room at that time?
I remember that some of the Z90 guys were playing.
Okay, got it.
And those were some of the other guys. The radio DJs didn't get a lot of love in the clubs, but some of those guys I really respected, like DJ Rags, who I'm friends with now. We got to 2x4 once at the Ivy. It was we never played together. It was fun. And, there was a lot of respect, I think, back then for people that watched DJs, But, yeah, that's kind of how I got my start, and it goes on from there.
Yeah.
And, by that time when we were I think a little later than that was when Matt and Tyler eventually bought their first club, which was Aubergine, and that's when my high school started coming out. And then my peers were now in the club, and we and Cuts were already on top. We were headlining everywhere. And then it went from there. And a few years later, started traveling. We were the residents at all the hot spots, Sidebars, the Stingeries, Ivy, which is now the Andaz, Hard Rock when it opened. I used to play after hours at L5 where Hard Rock was.
Yeah.
We were everywhere. I met you back then, and that's how I got my start. Mm-hmm. And so actually I saw you at the record
Baja
store.
Brewing Company, wasn't that L5? Or
Before,
Yeah.
Yeah. So all these spots have a lot of history. I mean, we did Tantra, which doesn't exist anymore.
Jeez, where was Tantra?
That was also
Ventanas.
Was that also L5?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It was also.
Wait a minute, I see the same legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was Ventanas, which was in that East Village, but it wasn't
that was
East
cool.
Village.
That was cool.
There was no East Village yet. It might be where the Moonshine is.
Ventanas? I don't remember.
Ventanas was sort of like in the. I think they call it the Asian district of the gas lamp.
It was. I think where Moonshine Flats is, or Meze. It was one of those. I think.
No, opposite, other way. It was towards the Baymore. It was like on 3rd.
No, that's Candalas.
Oh, yeah, Candalas.
That's Candalas. We did that too.
Oh, that's right. Ventanas. Oh, my God. You're right.
Yeah, Candalas. Because for the brief bit and I liked going to Candalas because they had good house music, but for the brief bit that we stopped doing the Bristol and those guys were negotiating to take over on Broadway, and when they had record nights on Broadway when they came in that second time, and we were all the headliners, I remember getting booked by DJ here at Candalas.
Yeah.
Candalas. I used to like Candalas, yeah. I used to like going there to hang out. But I mean, you got to remember, I was all up in the gas lamp scene in the clubs and eventually started playing some PB clubs too. But to go out in North Park where I lived, I had to use my roommate's ID.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's funny.
So that's kind of my history. I mean, like I said, it goes on from there. But that's where I met you. And I saw you at the record store, like I mentioned. And that's another thing I guess I wanted to mention is you really had to be dedicated back then because we were shopping for records every week. It was a routine.
And they were expensive.
Cuts would meet up, go grab a sandwich, go to the record store. Go to LA, go to the record stores.
I was so dedicated. They told me, hey, do you want a job here?
Yeah.
Because I think it was every Tuesday or Wednesday they would get the shipments from New York.
Yeah, every Tuesday, Wednesday we were at down at AC&S, the DJ store. We would hit once a month. We would typically hit up LA, go to Aaron's, go to Amoeba, go to Fat Beats, and we would get all the trip hop and acid jazz stuff we liked, and get, we were digging. And I would go dig with Willow, the Gas Lamp Killer now, and we would dig for breaks and grooves and all the original samples. And I was really more, because that's what I was getting booked for. And that was kind of my background. I loved house music, but no way I could afford those records and have to buy what I had to play.
Yeah, a lot of the imports
you couldn't be that multi-genre.
Well, the imports at the time were double the price.
Dude, they were like $11.99.
Yeah,
and then the domestics were $7.99.
$7.99.
Because I literally was like, I can't afford this. I got to work at the record store.
Yeah,
like they didn't say to me, "Hey, you're here all the time." I'm like, "Yo, this is getting expensive, and I need these records, man. What can we do here?" Because I don't know, me, you have good taste and. It was Adam. I forget his last. He owned Mileage record store, and I was just kind of put myself in there, and he kind of hired me.
Yeah, that they had records there too.
Yeah, and then I started doing the buying and helping them out with that, and I was like literally, that was so amazing because I had the dopest shit. That nobody else had. Because I had, literally at some point, I was walking around with 90 pieces, 95 pieces, and they were all white labels.
Yeah.
And they're white labels that people were just because back then you had to make a test pressing.
Yep.
Make a test pressing. If the test pressing, even if it went well or didn't go well, depending on the money, they're going to make more. I had songs that were probably literally every time I dropped them, they murdered the dance floor, and there was 12 out there. You know what I mean? And they're this song definitely should have been mass produced, and it was 12. You know what I mean? And that was the thing back then. It was having
all the
stuff,
white labels.
Yeah, having stuff that no one had, and working in the record store, you had access to that. You know what I mean? So that's what's
yeah,
really
it was
dope
different.
about that.
I remember, and I want to get to Erick's story.
Yeah, let's get to
But
Erick's
that
story.
was the thing. It wasn't. Now everybody has the same records, so it's all about your skill. I think that separates.
Everybody
you.
has access.
Yeah, everyone has access.
But
Everyone has access. You had to go.
They don't always have them.
Back then though, you had to go dig and get on your hands and knees and find them.
Yeah. Well, and also the record stores, would only get so many. Once it was gone,
once
it
they're
was
sold
gone.
out, they're gone.
Gone and gone.
That's why you had to be.
Yeah.
You had to be on your P's and Q's.
You had to be there when they came out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess where I could start at the beginning was it was 1993, going to my first rave. My brother took me. My brother's older than me. He took me. We were best friends. We did everything together: skateboard, surfboard, snowboard, everything. So he was like, "Yo, let's go check out this rave thing or whatever." There was a flyer going around the school, and I was like, "Yes, let's do this." It was totally cool, which also, because of the look of it, is how I got involved in art.
Where were you going to school?
I was in Point Loma.
Point Loma. Okay.
Yeah, Point Loma High School.
That's right.
So
my son goes.
Where his son goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
I didn't play any sports or anything but
That's okay.
I was just a nerdy kid.
You're meant to be a DJ and a graphics designer.
Yeah, I was skateboarding and stuff. So flyer, we go to this rave. We pay the cover. It was on Hancock Street, where Spin is now, but a few blocks down. The building doesn't exist anymore. It was called Rockers. It was a Jamaican club. That's why it's called Rockers, because they use that term, Rockers or whatever. And I walked in and I'm just mesmerized. There was such cool lights. It was every once in a while there'd be a movie where they kind of show a rave scene every once in a while, and I was like, is that real? Does that exist? So then walked into it. It was amazing. People were dressed up in their rave gear at the time, which was a lot different. Everybody was having fun. The lighting. So I go, and there was kind of a elevated area, and I'm looking above and watching down at the DJ, and he's got this thing in the middle. He's got a record player and another record player. I had no idea what he was doing. I was like, okay, this guy is playing some records, but this thing in the middle, I had no idea what it was, the mixer. Yeah. I was like, I thought he was making music. Yeah. I thought he was making music.
This is the first time you even seen a DJ?
That type of DJ.
I mean, you didn't see DJs often back then.
Type of DJ. I'd seen hip hop DJs and stuff, because I sort of grew up in the b-boy culture.
Right.
With I think I mentioned the last time with Brandon, the new
from
owner of
Spin.
Spin. Yeah. That's where we met Willow. Gas Lamp Killer. He was 10 or something.
Yeah, I mean, he had the craziest record collection too.
Yeah.
At
so
18.
So then I was like, okay. I picked up as many flyers as I could. I was like, this is cool. We got to come back. We got to do another one of these things. I was just, it was really cool. You know, I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs, nothing until I was like 25 or something. So I was always just like, this is so cool. The sound is cool. The lighting is cool. The people are cool. And then, on the flyers, there'd be all kinds of like little logos and like phone numbers and stuff. And all of a sudden I was like, where do I get the music at? Like, I think Tower Records had a tiny little section of like imports and stuff like that. So then somebody had told me, hey, go to this record store downtown. It was called Amato Records. It's where Huntress and Lumi, the same building.
Oh, is there?
Uh-huh.
I don't know that record store. That was probably a little before my time.
Yep. It was all dance music there. And I walked in, everybody was like totally cool, tiny little spot. They're like, what kind of stuff you looking for? I was like, I have no idea. They're like, check this out, check this out, check this out. I think it was like they gave me like a breakbeat record, a house record, a trance record. And I was like, okay, I like these kind of two things. They're like, okay, this is breaks. This is house. These are the sections. So I would listen to it. I would stay there for like a couple hours because I didn't even have a record player at home. So I would listen to it. I was gonna buy it, but I wanted to listen to it. So I would hang out. I became friends with them.
Was it downstairs?
Yeah,
where Huntress is.
In
that same building.
Same building.
I thought that was a hotel.
It was on the side. No, it was
on the side.
On the side. Yeah.
Okay.
On the side street, not on 5th, but on the side street.
Okay, yeah, because that was Pacific Hotel or something.
Yes, I don't. There was.
Yeah, I never been there. But
Amato Records. So then I started collecting records.
No record player.
No record player.
Wow.
But I was like, I need to have the music.
Right.
I have to have the music. Mm-hmm. So then somebody introduced me to another record store and another record store, and I would start going to all these things, and I'd started buying magazines at the time. There was dedicated magazines from Europe because things were like blowing up over there before it did in the United States.
And what year? Let's give everyone what year was this?
Early
90s, right?
I
was gonna say mid 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was still at that time. I was like finishing middle school, going to high school.
It was
you weren't DJing out public yet.
No, I still wasn't DJing, but I hadn't been.
You hadn't been out.
Yeah, and I was still collecting records, buying records.
So we were all about to converge in around the year 2000, 2001.
Yep. So I started going to these record stores every week to grab a couple records here and there, and then one of the record stores, because I started studying things, I would get rave flyers. I'd see DJs on the lineup. There was regular DJs. There was always some kind of representation of what they were involved in. Remember when they used to put like either the record label or things like that?
Or the crew.
Yeah, exactly. So then in the magazines and in the records, I started reading everything, and I was starting to connect the dots. And then I would go to one record store in particular. It was called Equinox, which is California Sound Lighting, same thing.
Remember that?
They had one in College area by my house.
I worked at that one for a little bit too.
Yeah, I would go there and.
So then I started asking the guy, "Hey, do you know when this record's coming out? This record's coming out." He's like, "Dude, do you want to start working here?" So I was like, "Yes, I do."
Do you have turntables yet?
Not yet.
You still don't have
turntables
That's awesome.
yet. Yeah, I was just collecting. I started.
I mean,
you started working at a record store.
Yeah.
So just to kind of
before you had turntables,
just to let people know. The turntables were pretty expensive.
Yeah,
they were $450 each. You needed two.
Yeah,
and the mixers were ranged from a couple $100 to $500-600. I'd say. I mean, at least the ones I was buying, the scratch mixers were around that. And you had to dedicate all that money into your gear and records to be a DJ.
Yeah. I mean, there was
no controller. Yeah. No $300 thing all in one box.
My first setup was 2 belt driven. In a realistic mixer,
nightmare,
bro. And my pitch was knobs, 2 knobs. Yes, turn knobs, bro. So literally, and I learned how to play on that, bro. I could get it about 20. I can get it like 80% on. The rest I had to, and it's so crazy because
belt drive is even harder
than direct drive.
Yeah, as soon as I got like techniques, First thing I stopped doing is touching the platter.
Yeah.
But I spent about a year and a half getting it as close as I could and then just pushing the platter and keeping the rest on. Because it was like, it was like this.
Yeah.
This is as fast as it goes. This is as slow as it goes.
Yeah.
It wasn't like nice little range or numbers. No.
No. Yeah.
So then somebody, I don't remember exactly how. Somebody gave my brother some turntables. They were Techniques. They were beat as hell, but those things
They're
last.
tanks.
Oh my
Tanks.
gosh, those are the best things.
Those
ever
things
made.
last forever.
You know what I mean?
I have 6 in my garage right now.
Yeah,
Still.
and they still probably work.
Yes.
So they're only a screwdriver away from working.
So then I was like, okay, this is cool. The hardest thing, I was like, what? I had no idea what the pitch did. Nobody taught me anything.
Right.
I had nobody to show me anything.
Right.
Then one day I was like, I have to use the pitch to get these things at the same speed. I had no idea.
And not, but see, there was no key lock or
No.
thing. It's that you see in Serato and record box that keep the pitch the same.
Yep.
If you change the speed,
No
the pitch is
computer.
going
The pitch
with
is
it.
going
no
up.
computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the pitch is going up. So if you went too far, you're going to get that chipmunk
So
voice.
it was one of the hardest things learning on my own. I had no one to really talk to, no one to ask. Then I kind of got a little bit used to it. I was working at the record store, and if anybody remembers, the record stores were kind of this hub for everybody.
Yeah.
All the DJs,
Yeah.
promoters. That's where a lot of people would get their flyers to see what's happening in events around town.
That's where the community went.
All the DJs
Yeah.
would go to like all these 5-6 record stores to because I ended up becoming the house buyer, and I was kind of curating, sort of like we were like one of the bigger stores in San Diego.
Yeah,
you remember?
for sure.
So I was like curating anything and everybody that played house was probably like 75%. I handed it to him. You know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a really good story.
Yeah, I mean, I would get on the phone with New York. They're like, check this record out. It's like they're playing it in the phone.
wow.
In the phone, check it out. I'm like,
That's crazy.
I'm like, hey, turn it up. Wait, rewind it, because every once in a while there'd be like a weird lyric. I'm like, wait, what'd that say? And they're just trying to pump out records and sell them. You know?
Yeah.
I remember ordering this one record because he was this producer. I don't remember the name, and I was like, no, we need to get like 50 copies. 50 copies was a lot.
A lot. Because there was probably 50
So many.
DJs in town.
50 copies was a lot, and that record, I didn't sell one copy. It was
Oh,
funny. My
wow.
manager was so mad at me. He's like, dude.
Wow, yeah.
And I did it
It wasn't
again.
an import, was it?
I don't remember. I did it again. So I had become a huge fan of Daft Punk from like just being given like a record. And
Oh,
this
yeah, I mean,
and
they're
this.
amazing.
So before the Discovery album came out, the guys in New York were like, dude, new Daft Punk album's come out. How many you want? I was like, give me 100 copies.
Oh, wow.
I was like, you got to give me 100 copies. It sat there so long until the open format guys started jumping on. What was the big song on there on the
that
Celebrate or I forget. One of the biggest songs on Discovery. A lot of open format DJs started playing
it.
and I had bought albums, not singles. So I was like, it's on here. You got to buy the.
They were coming to your store looking for it.
They wanted the
crazy.
single though, and
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
the singles are sold out. You got to get the album.
You got no more singles.
Yeah. So
You got a ton of albums, though.
I ended up selling the album. So I was being the hub. It was probably around 96. One of my 95, 96. One of my first DJ gigs. Somebody was at the store. They're like, "Yo, Eric, you got to come play at my party." I was like, "I don't really know how to DJ." They're like, "We don't care." They were like, "I know you got a dope collection. You work here every day." Like, I was not only collecting house music, there was like individual buyers for all of us, all in the genres. We had a drum and bass guy.
Yeah, you had different buyers for each genre.
Yeah, we had a hip hop guy. We had a trance guy. So, we would literally play our tunes out so everybody can hear them that are hanging out in the store and stuff. So I would buy drum and bass records. I would get hip hop records. I would get some trance records. I didn't really. That was kind of like probably the least. I wasn't really digging trance back then.
Would the other buyers get mad at you for buying outside of your genre? Or you?
Oh no! I mean, I was buying them from the
was
store
buying
at cost
for
for
him.
my collection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
for his collection.
For my
Oh,
collection.
gotcha.
Yeah. So I had this huge collection of just dance music that I really liked and everything, and so first gig, he's like, "Dude, we don't care if you don't know how to DJ, just play one record at a time if you want."
Right.
I was like,
Fade in, fade out.
perfect. My first gig was $150.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
We
that,
already laid the path
but
down
that
for
was
the,
a that
for
was
the
a
$50 DJ.
Yeah, well, he just
You got
gave
in
it to
the
me
game later.
He was just like, I didn't ask for anything. He's like, how much you want? I was like, I don't know. Am I getting paid? He's like, yeah, here's $150. I was like, oh, dope.
Yeah.
So then after that, I was like, I gotta learn. I really have to learn how to DJ. So then I ended up buying new turntables. My record store also sold a ton of great equipment. So I got to play on everything, and I got to learn. I got to really see what was the best at the time of the equipment. Obviously, Techniques were the standard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
CDJs
What did you get?
didn't come out till later.
For a mixer, I had the early like 2-channel Pioneers. I had like I had a Vestax, which a lot of the hip hop guys
I had
liked.
Vestax. I had multiple different Vestax mixers.
They
and then
had
Rain.
such cool features on them. From like the mixer, you could adjust. There was the first time you could adjust the crossfaders.
Yeah, they were the first, and they had the slim one. That was my first one, the real slim one.
Yep.
And then they had the 05 and the 07, I think, was a slim one.
05 was the standard.
Was the standard
Yep.
wide one. And then there was the Rain Mojo 56. which
Rain
was-
Mojo. Oh, that became the huge standard.
became
Yeah,
the
because
next
that
standard,
Skeeter
but-
was all about the rain.
But I remember too, and I kind of thought about this when you were talking about how, having to play on whatever, when Scooter was telling you that, like, yeah, we would have these certain mixers at our house, but I would go play it on Broadway and have to play on a rotary mixer up here with turntables all the way spread out this far away,
Dude, I mean, the first
You-
time
you
I
had
played
to
on a
get good on
rotary
everything.
mixer was like 2002 or 3 at 1050 Folsom in San Francisco.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, me and
I'd
Cuts
show
were
up.
doing it on
Guys
Broadway,
like,
man.
yo, this is a mixer. What?
How do you use
Not in
this?
the radio. This is
Yeah,
not in my
imagine us
writer.
trying to scratch
You
with
know
the
what I mean? I'm
rotary.
like turning this thing. Like, this is not a-
You know, that was great. The
They
thing
still
that-
had the fader at the top,
They did.
actually, but the fader was at the top, and the rotaries were near the bottom.
The thing that was great though was like the record store I worked at had such great equipment, so I kind of learned to be able to play on everything, and
Yeah.
I loved when technology started coming around. My manager at the time loved. He had the early CDJs, and he mixed, and he had all kinds of cool mixes on CDJs. He was like. Those two, remember the boxes of CDJs? There was just like this crazy box Pioneer made. It was like,
Oh, I remember first seeing the Denon rack mount CD players first. They were in every booth.
oh yeah.
You know, where you'd have the little control panel up by the top, and then in the bottom on the racks where the amps were, they have the little CD. Now, I didn't use them, but you could open up the little tray and then put the CD in, and then it was on the other channels of the
damn.
mixers.
I've never seen that.
They had that on Broadway. They had that at all the spots that had the rotaries. Wherever the guy, I don't know, whoever set up those booths back then.
Because I never
was
played on a
putting-
rotary at Broadway.
It was down in the Karma room.
Yeah, I never played one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an Onyx
When did
room.
Pioneer come out with that
Onyx
mixer?
room had it.
I don't remember the
back
name.
then. Onyx room had a rotary.
Yeah.
I feel like those might have been the only two
The
places.
rotary at the time though had great sound. That's
yeah,
what
it
the
was
deal.
analog, right?
Yeah, that's what the
Yeah.
deal was with those.
And it was cool. It was analog and you're playing vinyl.
Yeah.
So it was a great
Win-win,
concept.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
just like, man, not a lot of people. It definitely wasn't how the industry moving forward.
Well, no way.
but they came back.
And you know,
Now.
a hip hop or open format DJ on the rotary, no
way. Well, we did it.
way.
We had to do it.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
had
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
But going back
ahead.
to your story.
So it was. I started playing a few gigs here and there. I went by Erick D. They just called me Erick D. I didn't give myself the name. My name was obviously my first name's Nathan. My middle name's Eric. I started going by Eric in high school, so everybody just said he's Erick D. So
yeah, we didn't even talk about our name. My names were different too.
So I was just Erick D, and I was playing like house and like breaks and stuff. So then 98, it's around 98 comes around, and I started meeting so many different people at the record store. Again, it was like the hub, and I was like the main dude for like house music and dance music. So like everybody talked to me about stuff or get them, or I could special order things if they were still available. So I met my brother, how we started, you know, he introduced me to the raves. He really got into lighting, and he started doing lighting. He owned a lighting company, and started doing like providing lighting for like underground raves and stuff. And then, you know, word started to spread, and he was the cool lighting dude. And then he started doing some clubs, And then there was this club downtown. It was like the main place for like electronic music, and it was Baja Brewing Company. And first DJ didn't show up. My brother calls. He's like, "Yo, they need a DJ." I was like, "Do they know how old I am?" They're like, "They don't care."
How old are you?
Yeah, it was 98, so I was 18, 19.
Okay.
18, 19. And it's where the Hard Rock was. Yep. Single floor.
Mm-hmm.
Huge parking lot. There was no building. There was no
hotel yet.
No hotel.
No, not at all.
Single floor. I played. I finally, at that time, I knew how to DJ. I had been practicing. I figured out what the pitch was for.
That's awesome.
So they were like, "You're hired. Every week we need you here to open up." I was like,
perfect.
I was like, "Oh, cool." They're like,
that was a cool spot.
"Here's $150 every week." I was like, $150 every
I mean, yeah,
week?
back then, the DJ rates were averaging like I'd say 150 to 250, right?
Yeah.
But that was a lot of money back then because
I mean, the
you
biggest
can fill your
DJs
you
back
can fill your
then
gas
was
tank
what?
with $18.
Yeah,
The biggest DJ within was like probably Sasha and Digweed, right? Maybe
Sasha Digweed were huge.
Paul Oakenfold,
Paul
Sasha and
Oakenfold, but
Digweed.
they still were kind of reigning around that time. I mean, making the most money.
Yeah.
like
Which was what?
Like $60K for both of them.
Yeah.
They're making $30K.
And that was that's funny because that was
but they were coming from Europe and
Yeah. I'm just saying those guys were the guys
that
had the fee. You were like, whoa.
Yeah.
That was like, what the hell? They're each making $30,000. Like people were freaking out. Like,
so
what?
I always tell the story now. I think you don't remember. That's where I met you.
Yeah.
Because you were the only person of color
Playing house music.
playing house music. Not a joke.
Yeah.
well, there was Donald.
Donald Glaude.
Yeah, but he wasn't
Donald
here.
He wasn't here in San Francisco.
I
know,
grew up
he-
with
you
Donald
grew up
Glaude.
I know.
In Seattle.
Seattle?
Yeah.
And then he went to San Francisco?
No, he would just go to
he was
San
just-
Francisco.
Oh, he didn't actually live there.
No, I don't think he actually lived there. I mean, I'm not 100% certain because, in like, when I moved to San Diego, we kind of separated.
Yeah.
But like, I used to like, in like, I would say like 91, 92, I was like carrying his records in so I can get in.
At that point,
Like, I would sit at the club. He had to play. I'd be there like an hour before he had to get there.
do you know at that point, was he already part of the Funky
Techno Tribe. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, most of my time, like, because my my good friend through the raves, I would sit there and watch this guy. Like, literally.
Donald Glaude was just like legendary.
Oh, bro, they would fly, not even fly, because no one was flying anybody. People were like, you got guys from like, San Francisco, to like California, lower Cal, not even lower, just northern and then in Oregon. You know what I mean? Because people were driving. So it's like, he would bring up like, Yano Garth, Ernie Munson, and Spun. And probably the only guy that Donald didn't absolutely embarrass after playing after was probably Spun. Everybody else, he would just like, they would get on and someone would be like, yo, what was this? It's just set up?
Donald
You know
was
what I mean? Like,
a beast.
what did you guys do? I mean, like, he was
Yeah.
and I remember he used to have these old school radio, like 70s, the big 70 headphones, Radio Shack headphones. He'd be dropping them with those on, bro, and he would just be murdering.
That's
it.
cool.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. So yeah, I met you there. You actually, I was playing a record, and you were like, "Yo, what is that record?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll tell you what it is." I was like, "Come by the store." I was like, "I'll get you the record." And that was the first time I met
Because
you.
that's where, like, I knew that's where we met, but I became more familiar with you.
Yeah,
from
later.
the record
Yeah.
store.
Yeah, from the
You know
record
what I
store.
mean? From the record store. Because I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, yeah.
And this is where you working at the one on El Cajon Boulevard or the one in Claremont?
I can't remember the years, but I worked at. They had the one in Claremont had 3 different locations, and I worked at all 3 of them. And then they opened the one on El Cajon Boulevard, and I opened that one up.
Okay, that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
most of my childhood.
And that's where I met you, right? Or no, the other one.
I swear I saw you at some record store on 9th Avenue when I was a kid.
Well, I went to every record store, so I not only did
downtown
because
when I was in high school, because sometimes we'd come shopping downtown.
I would go to.
I mean,
everything,
I was buying records before I had Techniques too, a little bit. My first record I bought at the CSL on El Cajon Boulevard. But then near the end of my high school, I started starting the collection because I was trying to get turntables, and we started going to Tools of the Trade downtown, and there was some other, it was called Elevator.
Yeah.
That's where I swear I saw you. You were sitting in the back.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Adam Salter might have been in there too.
Yeah.
And you guys looked like you were like doing some graphic design or some shit, which you probably were.
That's funny.
And we were
Literally.
just some young ass kids, and we had half days. It was the finals of our high school, you know, like.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, where I first saw you, but
Gotcha.
didn't meet you yet.
Gotcha. So yeah, I would go to every record store because, like, you know, we had everyone was a different buyer.
Yeah.
You're buying
Yeah.
different stuff.
Yeah,
The
everybody
other guy
bought.
with different
Well, yeah,
stuff,
when
you
we
know?
started
Yeah, there's-
shopping in the year 2000s, we would go to different stores.
Oh, you had to.
And I wanted everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My collection is probably like 10,000 records. It's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
My garage is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I have a ton of records.
insane.
Yeah.
I don't have them up, but I mean, I have.
I got rid
still
of
haven't
a
gotten
lot.
rid of them.
Oh, mine are just all in boxes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in boxes, but like literally, the conversation is impossible.
So then, one of the promoters, Paulie P, was involved
Yeah.
in the Baja Brewing Company, and
Pauly
he
P.
was doing Studio 54
Mm-hmm.
at Montage, and he's like, "You got to come to Montage. I want you to play there. You want you to be a resident, open up." And I was like, "Yes, okay, cool." And then he's like, "Dude, they won't let you play. You're not 21." Yeah, I was like, he's like, "When you turn 21?"
Call me.
Yeah, I was like December 2000. He's like, "The first day you turn 21,
You got a job, huh?
you got a job." DJ booth was on the second floor, facing
Yeah.
the dance floor.
Bro, crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all up high.
Now, for
You know what I
everyone,
mean?
once again, this is Spin Nightclub now.
Spin nightclub, and that's really where I was starting to play with all the big DJs at the time. I think Shasha John Digweed, Carl
Yeah.
Cox,
Yeah.
Eric Murillo. They had Groove Armada.
Yeah, then they brought the
Huge.
biggest people.
Yeah.
Like I remember our first time Tiesto played, I had to drive to LA to pick him up.
Okay.
You talked about that.
Yeah,
in this
'cause-
podcast.
Yeah, Ryan didn't want him no random just talking his ear
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
So they sent me up there to pick him up. I remember Ryan asked me, like, it was like 4 months before February.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "It's Black History Month. Name one DJ you want to play with." And I said Carl Cox, and that's how he got Carl Cox.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So, literally, we went back. I played 4 hours. He played, dude, and it was like, man, that guy.
Yeah,
it
that
was
was
on vinyl.
That was a huge night.
Yeah,
I
it was
remember
on
that.
vinyl, bro. And I was like, man, I mean, I thought I practiced. You know, no, like
Yeah, I
he's
mean-
like,
He was already a veteran at
he's
that
like,
time.
give me the work. Yeah, get to work. No,
Yeah, that was a huge. I mean,
he 4 turntables.
yeah.
Yeah,
That was
on
a
vinyl.
Yeah, again, that was like the at that time I was just like playing like at that spot was like the biggest DJs
Yeah, it was
like,
cool.
around
I
the world.
want to throw in too. It was a different era. The promoters promoted hard.
Oh
Promoters, the
there
promoters
was-
promoted, the DJs
DJs
DJs.
just DJ.
Yep.
There was
Yep.
one promoter per party. They did not work together. They
Right.
didn't like each other.
Right.
They hated each other.
Yeah.
Tim Ortiz was around.
Yeah.
Matt Spencer, Corey Biggs, who I
Yeah.
just ran into. I just saw Corey Biggs recently
At Kettner.
at Kettner.
I saw you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then who else? Jason Overall, Pauly
Yeah.
P. Who else was promoting at that time?
Susan E.
Andy
Yeah.
Farnsworth.
Andy Farnsworth.
Susan E. I never got to work for,
okay.
but those were the main people.
It was a different time. Like the promoters had the trust of the people.
Oh, and Dre Vegas.
Dre Vegas.
That's right.
Yeah, the promoters had the trust of the people. So as a DJ, you just try to get to be able to play at that party.
They just wanted
'Cause
you
it was-
to be the dopest DJ you could
But
be.
they knew dope DJs.
Yeah.
So like that's how the party was like. It was like the parties were like, okay, I don't know this guy, but this guy always brings good people. So I'm gonna go. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, oh, who's playing? You know, now I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
It was like this place is always packed.
Yeah.
And this place is always going off because this promoter always brings dope DJs. So if he
And
brings
the
you,
DJs were in
it's
the
'cause
corner.
You're dope.
The DJs were in the corner.
Yeah.
We were on the flyers,
No, I mean,
but we weren't the fixture.
No.
We weren't we didn't. Yes, we brought guest lists and people would come.
I mean,
with
I
us,
kind
but
of
we weren't-
disagree. I just don't think it was like the only reason people went there.
Yeah,
But, I mean,
no, we were promoted.
Yeah, but we were visible. You
No,
know what I
we
mean?
were
Like,
visible, but not in every room. Like at
Right.
some rooms, we would be, instead of it being on a big stage, you'd be in a
Right.
DJ booth in the corner.
Right.
Yeah, you're still elevated.
Right.
But it wasn't the focus.
It wasn't always the
focus
focal point,
was the
yeah.
dance floor.
Yeah,
You
dancing.
know, and the bar.
Oh, always the bar, but dancing. Yeah, it didn't. People weren't just staring at the
At
DJ,
the DJ.
not
There-
doing anything.
There were no phones.
Oh yeah, there were no phones.
Yeah.
That's
No.
right.
They were Jack. They were
media yet. no social media.
Until it got lit.
So the promoters, for them to promote back then, they were doing flyers, car bombing, hand-to-hand flyering. I remember me and Cuts got pulled by the cops because Matty A started having us try to help promote for him. And we would like go out to Plan B and PB and start passing out these flyers with our names on them and shit for the night. And we got pulled by the cops and got fined and had to go to court.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because you had to have a promoter license, apparently.
Then sort of on the underground part of that, there was on the underground part of that.
We only did that once.
There was the rave line. You would call. The rave line would tell you, there's this party this night, this party this night, this party this night. Here, go get your ticket here. Go to the checkpoint here. Go.
Oh, yeah, the raves, yeah.
I never raved much here.
I didn't rave much either.
I raved mostly before I got here.
Yeah.
You know, and I did go to some raves, but not as much, you know what I mean? Because I didn't live here. And then, you know what I mean? The club scene was already popping, and I was already, 21, so I was like, okay. Well,
there was some great underground parties here. Yeah, like
knowing how San Diego is, I'm sure there was some.
Yeah,
yeah. I didn't really get to go to a lot because I started DJing so young, and then I was just in the clubs. Yeah. I didn't have time to go to raves.
What was your favorite old school rave?
I mean, okay, so one of the 90, I think it was one of my favorite ones was 96. It was the first event like this, and it was at the convention center when the convention center was half the size.
Okay,
it was called Future World by Global Underworld, and one of the guys now is like one of the main dudes at Insomniac now, and one of the other guys, Brandon, is in Vegas, and he's opening up a new like bar. He's done a couple things, but those guys were sort of like those two guys, Pauly P and them, were kind of like sort of like the innovators of the underground scene. But the party was huge. I mean, the flyer was like this big and folded. It was so cool. Awesome. I made myself a fake ID at Kinko's, a fake school ID, because it was 18 and up, and I wasn't 18. And then when I walk up there, the security guard's just like, didn't even look at it. Yeah. Like, I didn't even need to make it.
Yeah.
But I think that was my favorite because it was such an experience, and it was in a different spot.
Rave 18 and up was just something to tour other young people, but no one checked.
Yeah. But it was such a different thing because I had been to desert parties and like warehouse parties, and this was at the convention center, and they were promoting it huge. I mean, there was like, DJs from New York. Right. There was like a room with bands and stuff, and I don't know, but I always go back to that moment because it was so cool. The convention center was half the size at the time before they expanded it, and I don't know, I just really liked that party a lot, and I thought it was cool.
It made a lasting impression. The music was good, and the vibe was right.
Yes, definitely. That was one of my early ones that I remember because it was in a different spot, and I was like, whoa, they're using the convention center?
This must be getting big.
Yeah. I was like, whoa. There were some other great events. There was a lot of them were in the Indian reservations because they had different rules over there. They could do whatever they wanted over there. So there was a lot of Indian reservation outdoor raves that I went to at the time. A lot of warehouses. In Little Italy, there was like 3 different warehouses that got used a lot because Little Italy at the time, there was nothing.
Yeah.
There was like 2 bars.
Yeah, and I remember 4th and B was around. I remember going to, what was that party that they had there?
With John Stinson.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember getting taken there.
Oh, I played at that. It was
John Stinson, bro. That was
4th and B, for those that don't know, was on 4th and B Street. Yeah. It's now just this empty.
I don't remember the name of the party, but I remember John Stinson threw it.
Wasn't it called?
And it was like that place just went off.
I still have the flyer at home.
It was like 2 words, right?
I can't remember.
I know. I remember going there after playing Aubergine because they were going late, had after hours. And a lot of places still did after hours back then. Onyx Room on Broadway sometimes did after hours.
E Street Alley did after hours, right?
I think E Street Alley did after hours. And I remember, this is still early 2000s. We haven't even got to the mid 2000s yet.
I know, still early 2000s. Oh my God.
We're gonna have to make this one 2 parts.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Because there's just so much history in the city here and how we all started. Being here this long. I mean, I think it's funny. I remember playing at Red Circle when that opened. Now that became confidential.
Pauly P was one of the owners.
Yeah. Kevin Brown was doing promotions there when he started D-Town Productions, the B company for Matt and Tyler of DJ here. And me and Cuts were his DJs. and he became a DJ and played everywhere with us. And yeah, man, it was good times back then. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was definitely, in my world, smaller, but definitely, more, I wouldn't say stronger, but more connected.
Yeah, everybody was really connected. Everybody was friends as DJs.
There wasn't a lot of us.
There wasn't a lot of us, so we all had to be super good and cool.
But I feel like there wasn't a lot of us.
With
But
each
I don't
other.
even think that was the thing. It's just at that time, 90% of the guys that played for all the same reasons.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Because they loved it.
Yeah, so
We all
it's
love
like that kind of was like, and you could tell because it wasn't about what color you were, you know what I mean, what you're playing, if you what if you're a boy or girl, none of that mattered. It was just like, dude, does this guy know how to play? Is he flawless or is he not? You know what I mean? Like
Everybody had their own
that's
style,
everybody's
too.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like always a different style, but it was like even if I didn't like the DJ's music, I respected him if he knew how to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And even if I liked the music, I didn't respect him if he didn't know how to play. I didn't. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, that's on you. But I'm like, as I've gotten older and, I've seen it grow, and there's so much more going on. I don't feel that way anymore. But at the beginning, I was just like, man, how could you tell anybody that those guys were your mentors and you came out like that? I was like, I wanted my mentors to be proud of me. So when they heard, oh, this guy's saying he learned from you, and you inspired him, they're like, yeah. Now I'd be like, whoa, I don't be saying my name anymore, bro. I don't play like that,
Yeah, there's definitely different things. So I think maybe we can get into a little bit in the mid 2000s. What was going on in the mid 2000s?
I think we could. Yeah, we'll weave into that. And we'll have to talk. We'll have to do a part 2.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
talk 05. So
we are-
I know that we spoke about we just kind of picked up on Red Circle. So the owners of On Broadway, Mike Viscuso was his name. And for those that joined late, On Broadway is now Park. That was when Red Circle came in. And then I remember when Matt and Tyler bought Aubergine.
Yep.
That was
that
kind of
the
the
same
beginning
time?
of a new era. That was in 2004.
Okay.
When they bought it. So prior to when I was playing there and you were playing there when they were promoting it,
Yeah.
and those French guys owned it, it was
Yeah.
the early 2000s. So
Yeah.
2004 was a turning point in this city because I remember that club opened and then you started having new people come in. So the NDev guys, Shane Brennan, the Brennan brothers, they came in. They started Sidebar, which was Sidebar 1.0. Now it's on its 3rd version.
I got fired from Sidebar 1.0. They were like, yeah, no house music, no more house music. I was like,
Yeah, me and Cuts and Scooter were all residents there.
yeah. I was a resident for like a month.
And
Yeah.
then
You played all house, and they're like, nope.
Then Sidebar 2005. Then those guys built Stingery, where Nova is now, which
Yeah.
became Omnia.
Got
and
fired
then
from Stingery too.
No.
Yeah,
Nova.
all house.
That's when Scooter got the residency first, and then Cuts became the second. Me and Cuts were in line to get the residency if Scooter didn't take it. And this is when we all kind of elevated the rates to unheard of rates, all of us in San Diego. We were making good money.
They
back
could
then.
afford it at the time. I think the clubs
Yeah,
were
they
going through
killed
this
it.
like huge
Oh, they were
renaissance period.
slammed.
Yeah.
They were slammed.
Yeah.
And then I remember I got signed. I had my first agents right before the Ivy opened up, because then I became one of the main residents at the Ivy, and those guys like Todd and Mike Drummond, and they partnered with Zach, and they negotiated me really good fees at the Ivy. That was in 2006, 7-ish.
I played the rooftop when you guys were playing.
I played rooftop down
yeah.
in the club.
Yeah.
I also did Thursdays, so I had Thursdays and at least 2 to 4 Fridays, Saturdays, and then Hard Rock opened, and Bruno came to town. Bruno, yeah. Now we're getting into the mids, and we'll have to hold the rest of this for later. But I remember all these years because he hit me up and asked me and Loxy to be the residents, and I
Yeah.
said I could do 2. I'll bring in Cuts, so he'll do the other 2, and then Andy Hirsch came in, who we just got to see the other day.
Yep, Intervention.
Andy Hirsch came in, and then they took over the Hard Rock, and they built Intervention, and that became, I feel like that 2004 and beyond became that era. Mm-hmm. So
that was when EDM really took over. With
EDM
like
started to
intervention.
take over.
and,
Yeah,
like,
big
and I think that's a good segue for another episode.
yeah.
All right.
But is
So
there
this is
anything
the-
else we want to discuss before we get going? We should probably promote some of the stuff we got going on.
Yeah, and promote our Releases.
Yeah, so we have Lavelle Dupree's
I
EP
got my release coming
out
up,
July
yeah.
2nd.
What's that one called?
Sound of House.
Sound of
Sound of
House.
House.
Yeah.
We just dropped a free download
Yep.
today and yesterday on our SoundCloud. Come to Me. Me and
Yep.
Lavelle's have had this track sitting around for years.
Yeah, man.
Make sure you grab that. Some of the downloads have been doing very well.
Yeah, we got a lot of hot free downloads right now, guys. You guys
Yeah.
need to get involved in that if
Go
you're
to the
not already.
SoundCloud, check those out. We got a lot of new tracks we're working on over here.
Yeah, and
Acid
then that's
coming
mine's is
out.
next. What's the next one after
Is it
mine?
Acid?
Acid. That's the three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got your new one. It's more of a UK garage style.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, man. We got some hot stuff coming out.
Yeah, we have the whole release schedule done for the whole year, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
And I know everybody keeps asking about the behind the scenes studio live streams. I know I'm slacking on that, guys. I'm sorry.
We'll figure
I'd
it
love to hear what you guys want to see in the comments, and tell your friends about the show. Tell your friends about the label. Tell your friends to stream
Get
music.
involved. Tell your friends to get involved.
What gigs you guys got coming up? Anything?
What do I have coming up? I got this weekend off, but yeah, I got Liquid Sunshine next month, which is gonna be fun. San Diego. Some Loomy stuff. Then the rest of the stuff is out of town.
Yeah, I know I'm playing Loomy this Friday. I have a Liquid Sunshine coming up. I have to look at my schedule. I don't have.
I know. I always forget.
I'm a little light in next month, which is nice because I plan to be in the studio. I think I have to look at my schedule. But yeah, the Liquid Sunshine. I just did that Bang on 5th.
Oh yeah, Bang.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and then we did Deep House Brunch
Yep.
over the weekend.
Nice. Yeah, that was a ton of weekends.
The Bang on 5th look dope.
I played the Chami show at Beach House, the after party at Spin, which
Yeah.
were both great events, and then the big festival Horizon on
Yeah, I know.
Sunday.
That was dope.
Too many
huh?
events this past weekend.
You have fun on Horizon?
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah,
It was cool.
nice.
You know, big festival stuff, how it is. Great event, but I open up the festival, so it's like
Still. If you have fun, you have
everybody
fun.
wake up.
Yeah. Someone's got to start
but
the party.
I love being a part of it,
Yeah.
And then this weekend, Saturday I'm at Liquid Sunshine, and then Sunday I'm at Firehouse, my regular spot.
Let's
Nice.
go.
Yeah, so both.
Big shout out to
both-
Firehouse.
Both great events.
Yeah. So we will we'll schedule another date and do another one with just us three, and
Yeah.
Continue to
we'll talk about the next wave,
2004
2004
and up.
5 on.
Yeah.
And we'll get into
gonna
detail
be
about
another,
those
hour.
nightclubs. Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys remember anything, let us know, because then we can feature that, because
Yeah.
we probably remember it or we forget.
Yeah, you got questions. I know nobody
got
didn't really leave anything
questions
in the
or
chat,
some
but you can
comments.
always leave some comments on the video,
Yeah.
and
Any
we can
comments
get to
about
those questions
places?
on the next show.
Yeah.
Share us a little bit of your San Diego house history.
Yeah.
Yeah, drop some comments.
As I totally forget, and I know my dates are a little bit mixed up, pretty close,
Yeah.
but
I've got the dates pretty dialed.
I don't.
I think I think that hopefully we get some questions in the comments, and we can answer them on the next one for you.
That'd be dope.
guys.
yep.
I know that the replay will be available immediately. So, all right,
All right, guys.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good
Have a
talk.
good
huh?
one.
Well done, boys.
peace.
Later. All righty.
It was good.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Hour and a half.